Outward is an expansive third-person RPG where you're some schmuck shunted into a dangerous world of adventure. It offers three main methods of progressing your character from zero to hero, namely improving armor, skills, and weapons. In this hardcore run, I want to see if I can beat the main story and DLC, ignoring one method of progression and restricting another. Before we get into the run, let me give some rules and context. First, I can use no positive armor stats for combat or otherwise. To accomplish this, I'll wear Merton's Bones for most of the run, a set of armor that does nothing but cosmetically change your character. Second, I can only ever deal fire damage to an enemy. This means that I can't use any weapon attack in the game, as all of them deal some amount of physical damage. I can, however, use them for other things, which will be shown later in the run. That means the main form of progression used will be skills, and more specifically, magic. A difficult task considering your character doesn't start with any mana. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the run. The first step is to make my character, and since skeleton isn't an option here, I arbitrarily pick a random character set. After that, I'm treated to a slideshow that tells me how broke, in debt, and weak my character is before waking up from a shipwreck. I then sprint over to a campfire in the distance, making sure to pick up several torches along the way for later use. Once there, I make sure to immediately fail the challenge by speaking to a Zon and forcibly having armor equipped. I quickly change the rules of this run from no armor to no armor used for combat and go to sleep to continue on. I wake up next to my bed like I just experienced a drunken night's good enough and go outside to meet an angry mob. Apparently, nearly dying isn't an excuse to be late on taxes. Figures. After a few choice words, they agree to let me keep my house in exchange for a large sum of money or a tribal favor. As money is important for the run and I'm broke as hell, I'll have to go and get that favor, but that's for later. I try imitating Santa Claus and run up to people's chimneys in order to get Merton's Bones, fully ascending from my meat prison. Once done, I run around town looting trash in order to scrounge up 50 silver. Again, broke as hell. After that, I talk to Burak, learn a useless skill, and finally leave Cierzo, taking my first bony steps into the new world. The first goal of this run is to get magic, and since I lost my Hogwarts acceptance letter in the mail, I'll have to run a marathon and sell my soul instead. First is the marathon. I have to run all the way to Conflux Mountain and navigate through a maze filled with enemies in order to get to the ley line. Not one to waste my time in a game where combat focuses mainly on patience, I drink my water and eat some toast in order to sprint through the long run. The run was pretty uneventful, but here are the highlights. I realized that having a physical attack skill on one of my quick slots coupled with my general buffoonery would probably lead to a disaster, so I took it off. I had a close encounter with the local unsavories, but I don't think they noticed the skeleton full sprinting right past them, so it was fine. And I tried my hand at finding some beetles, but only seemed to find some plants instead. After about 3.5 minutes of a walking simulator, we finally reached Conflux Mountain. The maze to the ley line at Conflux Mountain's heart is pretty simple. Just go through the rooms marked by the blue skulls with glowing eyes. There are actually several methods to get to the center though, but this one is obviously the best because of the bony company throughout the ordeal. On the way, I accidentally aggro an armored troglodyte and he starts chasing me throughout the maze. He's been slacking on leg day though, so I can easily sprint past him and other troglodytes with my superior form. Eventually, I reach the end and head out towards the ley line. Magic in Outward is very ritualistic. You give up something, usually mana and some material component, and gain an effect. The process of getting magic is very similar, akin to selling your soul. You just give up health and stamina for mana, and we need a lot of mana. Getting access to mana means I also get access to various fire spells and can actually start fighting enemies and getting loot. These include Flamethrower, Spark, and Fireball. These will be my main tools for the first leg of the run. The most important one is Flamethrower, mainly because it's cheap, but it also deals good damage and has decent range. Fireball is a better spell, but it uses up a firestone, and once again, I'm broke as hell. I don't know about you, but the sudden ability to spew fire from your hands does a lot to improve your self-image. As such, I was feeling confident, so I immediately went back to the troglodytes I was previously running from with an intent to kill. I mean, what could go wrong? That's when I'm greeted with a familiar ugly face. The armored troglodyte apparently chased me all the way to the door and stayed there. Fighting them should be easy though, I mean they're only My afterlife flashed before my eyes. A beautiful 10 minutes of running, and more running. It was here I realized what I needed to do to survive. So I booked it the hell out of there. So, almost dying really gave me a new lease on life. Flamethrower deals good damage, yes, but as far as I know, its 2.5-second animation is uncancelable, and I'm slowed for its duration. So when I use it, I'm a sitting duck for a few seconds. This is especially important considering I have a mere 65 health with no damage or impact reduction. This means almost any hit will stagger me, and I can only take 2 or 3 hits tops. With that now in mind, and 2 mortal wounds on my body, I did what any sensible person would do in my situation. I ate some jerky and took a 2-hour nap, healing myself up to full. Instead of cutting my losses and leaving though, I decided to try and fight them once more. Luckily, troglodytes don't know how to work bedrolls, so they were still damaged. With that, and the knowledge gained from the previous encounter, I made quick work of the remaining troglodytes. Sadly, this didn't amount to much, as apparently cave-dwelling monsters are pretty poor. With my revenge arc finally complete though, I felt it was time to leave Conflux Mountain and start working on the true goal of Outward early game, getting rich and buying skills. Or I would say that if the Watchers didn't give me the dinkiest boat imaginable. But that means it's time for a wonderful travel montage of all our highlights on the way to Cierzo. Ready? We're here. Nothing happened. In Cierzo, I sell various ill-gotten gains to the merchants of the city and accrue enough cash to buy the first passive skill of the run, Fitness. This skill gives a solid 25 HP to our character and allows them to heal more from sleeping. The extra HP is godly, greatly increasing our survivability for the run by a large margin. I also make sure to buy a better backpack to carry more items, and I craft a Firestone in case I need to use Fireball in the future. Once done, I head into Cierzo's storage to finally try and solve my housing crisis. As previously said, the solution I will use to keep my house is getting a tribal favor. The way to do this is by giving some bandages to someone on the beach who was unfortunately hurt, but fortunately has a lot of money, so we have a reason to help him. After throwing flames real hard at some troglodytes, I come across what probably is a sign. I say probably because not having eyes makes it really difficult to read, so I can't know for sure. Likely just some words of encouragement though. Moving along, I eventually find the man in need seemingly clutching his knee in pain, saying a pistol shrimp got him. Oh god, the arrow shrimp have evolved. After that terrifying discovery, I hand him some bandages and he gives me a writ of tribal favor in return. Seems like a fair trade. I then burn some mantis shrimp and loot their bodies for some extra cash on my way back to Cierzo, necessary for the next skill. The stop in Cierzo is quite quick. I give Risa the writ of tribal favor and she tells me I should go talk to my friends before they leave to the various factions of Outward. But my social anxiety flares up, so instead I pick some berries and fail at cooking. Oh, I also realized that having an attack and a special attack bound to controls would likely cause an issue later in the run, so I quickly remove them. I then talk to Edo and buy Steady Arm, a skill that increases impact resistance by 10% while blocking. You know that thing I do all the time. The eventual goal is to max out this whole tree for the skill that does fire damage at the end. To accomplish that, I talk to some lady who will pay a hefty sum for some special mushroom. Whatever expands your mind, I guess. Determined to avoid talking to more people, I quickly set off to complete this arbitrary side quest. The monster-filled cave where the mushroom grows is literally right next to Cierzo, which I am simultaneously grateful for and confused by. I'm grateful because I don't have to walk very far, but I'm confused as to A, why build a town next to a cave filled with monsters, or B, why would the monsters settle and stay in a cave next to a village full of armed people? Seems like the situation could have only ended in the bloodshed I'm about to commit. Once at the cave, I use the knowledge of my past lives, i.e. my previous playthroughs, to expertly deduce the location of the mushroom in question. There is a problem though. The mushroom is guarded by the unique enemy, the Troglodyte Archmage, and around 2 to 3 regular troglodytes. Considering my last encounter with a large group of troglodytes almost ended the run early, I wasn't about to take another chance. I used the Firestone I crafted earlier to ascend to what I was always meant to be, a glorified fireball turret. Thankfully, Fireball at this level is extremely good, so the enemies were soundly defeated. I quickly grabbed the mushroom and did some post-genocide looting. With my ready-to-sell spoils now in stock, I sprinted back to Cierzo and sold the goods. After experiencing how powerful Fireball was, I knew that in order to tackle some of the harder and more lucrative dungeons in Chersonese, I would need to exercise its liberal use. The recipe for a Firestone is oil and a Mana Stone. Oil is easy enough to get. I can simply buy it from a merchant if I really needed it. The Mana Stones are another story though. The best way to get them without breaking the bank is to mine them myself, and the best place to do that is Conflux Mountain. I quickly sell what I can, making as much room in my bag as possible before heading out. The moonlit mining trip to Conflux Mountain was quick, with the occasional stop to defeat some bandit encounters or to mine a mana vein. The mining went wonderfully, with 3 of the 4 mana veins I found on Conflux Mountain producing Hackmanite, a rare gemstone that sells for 50 silvers each. This almost doubled what I currently had on my character and brought me really close to buying the breakthrough skill for Kazite's Spellblade. This emboldened me to scale to the top of Conflux Mountain for a bit more cash, namely by fighting the monster up there, a rock mantis. From previous playthroughs, I know this guy will be tougher than the enemies I've faced before, so I put on my best buffs and prepared for combat. The fight was long, mainly because I stupidly took damage early on and knew if I got hit with a combo after that I would likely be killed. Luckily, thanks to a flamethrower at the start and the burning effect it applied, the rock mantis eventually went down. With that fight, I was confident I had enough money now, and eager to get a new skill, and more important, finish the stream and go to bed, I rushed back to Sierzo, threw all my items at the closest merchant, and ran to Edo, the skill trainer. Finally, after a full 2.5 hours of gameplay, I have more health than when I started. Emboldened by the new skill and the supply of firestones, I looked to Montecalm Fort for the next dungeon to complete, a bandit camp teeming with enemies. But that will have to wait till next episode. Thanks for watching the video all the way through. If you liked the video, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe so you can get an alert when I make the next part. That said though, whether you do or you don't, I hope you have a good day.